I'll wait for myself, as usual, to pop up. Hello, people. Watching now, watching later. Robert Harrison is here. Tofu was looking good. Indeed, it was. Yes, I fried some tofu earlier. I usually don't make food into content, but I did a short earlier, a very short. Come on, YouTube, let's go. Am I on? Yes, I'm on. It's the Nazarite, reading your Hebrew lore from days of yore. Hello to Robert Harrison and maybe someone else who's there. It says two people are on there. Okay. So he said tofu was looking good. Indeed, I had it in a pita with fried eggplant and with matbucha, spicy matbucha, which is a sort of tomato and pepper salad, like diced and spicy, bell pepper, chili pepper, and it was very good. I normally have it cubed, or I don't normally prepare the tofu. It's usually my woman who prepares whatever it is, whatever protein it is. And with tofu, it is usually her dishes that she makes. And I simply saw it because my one of the kids used the other half for some vegan breakfast burrito thing. And I knew that if I don't use that second half soon enough, it won't make it. And so I did, and it was great. Hey, Timong was here. Hello to you. Happy holidays. Happy Hanukkah. It's the sixth night of Hanukkah, and it's the end of the moon cycle. And tomorrow night will be a new moon, and I'm looking forward very much to this new moon. Hang on a sec. Put the tea bag away. All right. It's still a little too hot. Hello, other people who are there. Declare yourselves. What are you up to? Who are you? So I wanted to read a couple of comments from the last few days and also talk about Hanukkah in its origin, if you will. Ariel, hey, nice to see you, man. I bought frying tofu for the first time in years yesterday. Ha! You bought frying tofu? Fried tofu? Or you prepared fried tofu? Which one was it? Okay, so you know what? Let's start with this. Let's start with the origin of Chanukah in the Talmud, which is Masechet Shabbat, Babylonian Talmud, Tractate Shabbat, 21b, right? Page 21b. And this is from Sefaria.org IL. It's the William Davidson Talmud, which I see here is probably a sort of hybrid between Koren and Steinsaltz, or they were I don't know, but the William Davidson Talmud, Steinsaltz, right? Rav Adin Even Yisrael Steinsaltz, who passed away a few years ago. I had the great fortune after my military service, while I was in my final year of yeshiva, but not in active duty in uniform. I was in his yeshiva, in the yeshiva that he presides over, that he's the president of, in the land of Tkoa, outside of Yerushalayim. It was a great year. It's one of the best years of my life. In some ways, it sucked a little, but it didn't. In some ways, it was really the best year of my life, because one of the best years of my life, because I got to learn half a day and work half a day. Also, since I was out of active duty in uniform, I was married finally after a year and something of being married but not home, really. And after that long tangent, Shabbat 21b asks the question, right? In the Masechet, in the Sugya, right? What they're discussing there is different oils and different wicks that are kosher for lighting the Shabbos candle, basically. And so the subject of the Hanukkah candles comes up, and they go through this and that. And then the Gemara asks, right? The Talmud asks, what is Chanukah? It's like, okay, we're talking about wicks and oil and Shabbos candles and Hanukkah candles, but what is Chanukah? So, what is Chanukah, and why are lights kindled on Chanukah? The sages taught on the 25th of Kislev, which was, right, 5 days ago, 6 days ago. On the 25th of Kislev, the days of Chanukah are 8. One may not eulogize on them, and one may not fast on them. So basically, it gives you the cut and dried, what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do, right? You light the candles, it's 8 days, no eulogies, and no fasting. Okay, hang on. Let's go to the chat. I saw something big come in on the phone here. Ariel says, bought smoked tofu. That suggests that it is supposed to be fried. I see. Why? I mean, you can have smoked tofu that's already been fried. I'm curious why it suggests that it's supposed to be fried. I mean, you know what you bought. I don't, you know. Robert says, Messianic Jews surprised me the other day. If they're right, saying Yeshua, Jesus celebrated Hanukkah in the Brit Chadashah, the New Testament, even gave a verse, I think it was like John 10, I don't know, but that's a surprise if true. Why would it be a surprise? The Hashmonai dynasty lasted over 200 years before Rome burned down the temple. And if Jesus lived in, let's say, the year zero, the Gregorian year zero, 70 years later, Rome destroyed the temple, it means that that tradition would have been there to commemorate the time when the Hashmonai dynasty was victorious over the Greeks, right, at the time. Okay, let's continue with the Talmud in Masechet Shabbat on Chanuka. So, days are 8, no eulogies, no fasts. What is the reason, right? They go into the reason, right? Why is this that we have 8 days in the middle of winter? That's not written in the Torah. You know, what happened? And they answer, when the Greeks entered the sanctuary, they defiled all the oils that were in the sanctuary. And when the Hashmonaim monarchy overcame and emerged victorious over them, they searched and found only one cruse, a barrel, small barrel, of oil that was placed with the seal of the high priest, meaning they found one small drum of oil that had been sealed by the high priest and unopened, unspoiled, untouched. Right? Virgin olive oil, literally. Really, really extra virgin olive oil. And so, right, and there was enough there to light the candelabrum, the menorah, the original menorah, not the Hanukkah menorah, Chanukiah, the original 7-candled menorah that was in the sanctuary of the temple, or the tabernacle and the temple, right, that had 7. It was enough to light it for only 1 day. A miracle occurred, says the Gemara, and they lit it, and they lit from it for 8 days, meaning that small drum of oil that had oil for 1 day lasted for 8 days. The next year, they instituted and made them holidays, these 8 days, with the recitation of Hallel, certain verses that were sung by the Levites, and now it's done by the congregations in shuls and places all over the world. Right, Hallel and Thanksgiving. Okay, so that's basically the origin of Chanukah in the Talmud, quoting, or rather referencing and quoting Megillat Ta'anit. And at the time of the Second Temple, that was already a thing. Now, some Second Temple era events, fast days, mourning days, days where you don't fast and don't mourn, like Chanukah, some of them over time have been sort of pushed out of the tradition, never really joined the mainstream tradition, kept individually, but not as a public, right? Not as a congregation, not as a nation, unlike Hanukkah, which is generally speaking. Look, those who only keep the written Torah and don't keep the oral traditions, and not the rabbinic oral traditions of that, do not celebrate Hanukkah. And to them, Chanukah and Purim, both of which are mentioned in Megillat Ta'anit, the scroll of Ta'anit from the Second Temple era, both of those Orthodox Jews, rabbinic Jews, do celebrate it. And right, maybe Messianic Jews as well, if what Robert is saying is true. So that idea of defiling all of it, many songs are sung in Chanukah, the miracle of the oil. Pardon? The miracle of the oil is why, let's say, fried dough, right, is a big thing. The sufganiyot, the Chanukah donuts, as it were. Okay. So, as I said earlier, I was going through Sefer Maccabim, part 1. the book of Hashmonai, the book of Maccabees, from the Hebrew Apocrypha, if that's the word, right? That didn't make it into the Jewish Bible. Such a good book. It really is. And maybe I did mention this last time. It's one of the only times where Nazarites are mentioned as such. I think I. There's no way that I spoke of Maccabim 1 and did not mention it. Okay, let's go to the chat. Okay, was Chanukah a holiday during Second Temple period? So I think I answered the question. We can see that yes, it was. Ariel Marshall says, well, I don't know, dude. I am sure it can be cooked and eaten in many ways, right, regarding the smoked tofu. But I guess it suits frying well. If you are really interested, I will find out the brand and we can write them a letter. And maybe some poetry and or a short story also. See, you have the right idea, Ariel Marshall. If you're gonna ask for something from a company, and waste their time or not, or if you file a complaint, put a little poem in there. Why not? Give them some entertainment. Robert says, is there gifts given during Chanuka? Well, I would say yes, but the main thing, I think, is what's known as Dmei Chanuka, or Chanukah Geld in Yiddish, which is Chanukah money. And many a chocolate coin, right, are eaten and sold and consumed and prepared for Hanukkah. And yeah, there are gifts that are given, right? Like I say, what did Adam Sandler say? Instead of one day of presents, we have 8 crazy nights. Ariel says, and we just drank from a cup of tea, perfectly synced, LOL. Yes. Yes, we should put some poetry there, a short story, and drink from a cup of tea in sync. Are you a pinky person? I mean, pinky, of course. I am a pinky person. Where is she anyway? Is she there? Yeah. Pinky. Oh, there she is in her bed. Good girl. Robert says, during Shabbat, do Orthodox men stand up and bless the women? Well, first of all, there is the minhag, the custom of reciting Eshet Chayil from the book of Proverbs, one of the last chapters, one of the later chapters, right? Which celebrates the hardworking and toiling woman, the matriarch, the woman of her home, and that is, many women consider that to be a blessing, those who would accept it from their husband. And I did that for a very long time, but now Orthodox men stand up and bless the women? Do you mean in shul? Do you mean privately, each in their own home? What's the deal here? Because there is a custom of blessing the children, and I've gotten into the custom of also blessing my woman. And if not blessing, then praising my woman. So which one do you, sorry? Hebrew Nazarite?
Hebrew Nazarite באנגלית.
Okay. מה זה? Okay. So, do Orthodox men stand up and bless the women? They probably should. And, right, the Shabbat is the bride, Shabbat is the queen. And when I say my words to my woman, I do literally address her as my Shabbos in human form, because that's what she is. So I can't speak for all Orthodox men, and I'm no longer proper Orthodox. But Lord knows I do. Every week. Ariel says, no, you lost me on the pinky person reference. Guess I missed out on that custom as a youth. I lost you? Well, it's never too late to raise a pinky when drinking a cup of tinky. That didn't sound right. Okay. That's the chat so far. Let's go for a couple of comments that showed up. Have you seen Elf yet? Asks BMXers with dreadlocks. No, I haven't seen it. He just saw it, he says. So right, I was wearing the Elf sweater on the 25th, right, on Christmas Day. You said you were or are going to watch it. Yeah, I'd like to at some point. I heard good things, but I haven't yet. Servant of the host says, Jewish pride, gay pride. And is that the emoji of clasping hands, of shaking hands? Hang on, let's make this larger and see if that's it. Yes, the handshake emoji. So I'm curious. Wait, hang on a second. Where did I go? Here. I'm curious as to where Jewish pride and gay pride meet for this person individually, right? Servant of the host. What I did reply was pride goes before a fall. I mean, speaking of Proverbs, right? What's more to say other than that? Ziwandin said a happy Hanukkah, my friend. Yes, a very happy festival of light and rededication to us all. And may we be able to, each and every one of us, rededicate ourselves to the things that matter in our lives, right? Each by their own definition of what it is that you truly care about, what is it that you truly want for yourself. So yeah, rededication. What's Baal Se'ar, asks BMXers with dreadlocks. Right, so we were talking about Nazarite, Avshalom, Shmuel, Elijah, and I said that he was referenced as being Baal Se'ar, a man of hair. And so I gave him the reference there, the chapter and verse. Hang on a second. It was 2 Kings, chapter 1, verse 8. And I'll read it now. They replied, he was a hairy man, and he wore a leather belt around his waist. Elijah from Tishbe, the king exclaimed. So yeah, Achav and Eliyahu. So Baal Se'ar means hairy man. Some people say that he was a Nazarite. All right. Ooh, here's one from a few days ago. And tell me what you make of this. Says LCS Nikki, I really appreciate your efforts. A bit off topic, but I wanted to ask. I have a SafePal wallet with USDT, and I have the seed phrase. And in parentheses, he wrote, alarm, fetch, churn, bridge, exercise, tape, speak, race, clerk, couch, crater, letter. And he asks, what's the best way to send them to Binance? Now, I can't make heads or tails of that remark, but here's what I replied. I wrote, peel 3 ripe bananas under a pale full moon, preferably in a hot pink thong or a burqa, but never both. Next, mash 5 turnips and 6 fried eggplants into a vat of green acid, non-lysergic, while chanting the Slovenian national anthem. And finally, I wrote to him, make sweet love to a creature of your preference, consent mandatory, in an orange grove or pine wood on a Wednesday after St. Mark's Great Hullabaloo barbecue. I hope that answers your question, I told him. Now, I didn't get a response from LCS Nikki. I can only hope that someone out there, would partake of this great ritual. And, what is it, baby? What do you mean? I'm confusing my live audience here. What is it, my man?
No, I'm not on the bed,
A comment. Feel free to read it.
I can't.
Okay. Let's see. There was a long comment from Sneezer, but first I'll go to the chat. See if there's anything here. Ba-ba-bum, where was I? Okay. Robert says, I seen a messianic Shabbat. I sent it to you in DM, and they privately in their home blessed the women. The women blessed the men, and the kids gave out challah. I'm assuming, right, you were going for challah there. So, okay, giving each other blessings, especially on days with, right, that potential like Shabbat, is a great thing. And I love giving my kids blessings. I love giving my woman blessings on Shabbat. Because even though I may suck on Shabbat, I suck a little less. Ariel says, Shabbos in human form, she lets you rest? No, it's quite the other way around. Kai Kurt. Now, Kai, I mean, I'm watching Deep Space Nine, right? I'm binging, well, semi-binging Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and there's Kai Wynn there. Kai is a very is the leader of Bejor, the spiritual leader of Bejor. So is your name Kai? Does Kai mean something in your language? Are you Kai Kurt because you are the spiritual leader, but your name is actually Kurt? Is it Surt? Is it Kurt with an umlaut? I need to know these things, man. You can't just pop in. Thank you for the message. It really was yummy. Hit the like button, says Robert Harrison. No, I won't begrudge you if you don't. He continues and says, reading Ezekiel has to be the book where God speaks the most. Every chapter starts with, and again, with the word of the Lord came again, saying, yes, Vayehi dvar Adonai elai lemor, right? And Ben Adam, son of man, son of Adam. He calls him the son of Adam. He calls him that so many times. Ariel says, is that the ritual for reincarnation in a pet cemetery? You know, it just might be. I haven't read Stephen King's Pet Sematary in a very long time. Robert asks, did Jerusalem get hit by a rocket today? I have no idea. I read headlines when I arrived at the office in the morning, but I didn't check out the news afterwards, so I have no idea. Could be. No alarms went off in our part of Jerusalem, but we did have the pleasure of, when was it? Friday night? I think Friday night at 2 something in the morning. That was pleasant. But you know what? That was a lone siren. The kids handled it beautifully. Everyone was safe and sound and back asleep in no time. And there are people all over living like that with multiple sirens every day, every night for so many years. And there are people, right? Yeah, this war, people suffering on both sides. Bailey says, hey Bailey Woodworks, nice to see you again. Praying for Israel. Thank you, we appreciate the prayers. Pray for peace. Pray for world peace. Israel abides. And I appreciate the sentiment, but if you're gonna pray for peace all over. Ariel says, you've seen the sequel movie to The Shining? What? Surely it's not Kubrick, is it? It's not Kubrick. You've seen the sequel movie to The Shining? Just watching it the other day and loved it. So no, I didn't know. I don't think I knew there was a sequel. Is there a Stephen King book that's considered a sequel to The Shining? I love that book so much. What a good book. The Shining is Stephen King. That's what I'm saying. Are you talking about, we're talking about a film. You said watching it. You said a sequel movie. So you're talking about Stanley Kubrick's The Shining? Because it's a movie, right? There was the mini-series for television, which I also like very much. But the book, did it have a sequel? I have no idea. Yes, and prefer the sequel. Okay, so it's not the book, it's a film, and the second film is not by Kubrick, so it's a recent thing. Is that what you're saying? What year is it from? Is it actually called The Shining 2? Yes, says Bailey, God's peace on all the world. Lu Yehi, may it be so, may it be so. Wait, hang on. Earbuds. All right, Robert says, what's your favorite comic character? I'm asking my brother-in-law, who is 52, loves them. I'm not a big comic book person, so I don't know if it's my favorite. I'll have to say, look, if you're talking about Garfield. Garfield is my favorite character, definitely. If you mean like superhero comics, that's a different story. Both by Stephen King, not The Shining 2. Wait. So Stephen King released a sequel to The Shining in book form, and then someone directed it, right? Made it into a movie. Am I understanding that correctly? And I gotta ask, why The Shining 2? I'm curious. All right, it's called Dr. Sleep. Ooh.
אני, דניאל,
That reminds me of Stephen King's Insomnia.
ופשוט תסתכל ליד
I haven't read a Stephen King novel in a very, very long time.
דבר גדול שלי. ואז
Maybe I should.
אני הלכתי,
My father loves them. I know that there's a big sort of conspiracy theory, I don't know what, that Stephen King, I think I may have mentioned this, I saw this on Reddit, that Stephen King has been for years no longer writing, actually writing, and other people have been writing his work, writing under his name, and just it's been published in his name. About the boy with the trike in his later life. You mean Danny? Danny Torrance, Doc.
דני זה קיצור של דניאל.
That is correct.
אוקיי, אז דניאל.
Or it could be a nickname of Dan. Dan and Daniel are not the same thing. Right? There's Dan and there's Daniel, and it's not always interchangeable. See, Danny can be a nickname for both, but Daniel, you wouldn't give that as a nickname to Dan.
Oh.
Hey, Mork, happy Hanukkah, Nanu Nanu. A very blessed and happy and bountiful Hanukkah to us all. May we, in our small way, do what we can to bring a little bit more light and warmth and positivity and good vibes and good energies. Bring victory to those around us in the best possible way, I mean. Once again, going through the book of Maccabees, it's such an inspiration. Such an inspiration. Thank you. Yes, Ariel. Should I keep it short and sweet? It's almost been 30 minutes. Yeah, well, let's see. Maybe there's another comment or two from the last few days. And if not, I think I might say goodbye. Okay. Okay. Saneezer said this. He said, I love how you're always grateful, even for experiences that many wouldn't be, like an empty chat. Right? Because when I went live a few days ago, for the first time since I started broadcasting once again for sure, since I got into a rhythm, like what, 6 months ago, I don't know what, it was 0 people waiting and 0 likes, and I said to myself, that's awesome. People are having fun. People are on vacation. People are on a holiday. Good. Okay. By the way, you're an admin on my channel, he says. No guilt trips intended. You are all very welcome and missed. I tried watching a few of your videos. Maybe it was simply the ones that I watched that unless I'm misunderstanding. Did you tell me that I'm an admin on the channel? I don't even know what my powers as admin are. So, okay, I'll check it out. Maybe something changed. I watched a video or two a long time ago. A lot of it went over my head, but who knows? I'll try something else, watch something else, see something else. Maybe I'll connect with it more. Either way, I appreciate the position of admin. Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah, he said.
Merry Christmas.
But if Sanhedrin didn't condemn Jesus to death, why is it thusly written in the Gospels? So right, I probably misremember it because I only read the New Testament once. I only read Brit Chadasha once, which means that I'm going to get a lot of it wrong, which is why I don't reference it or quote it or cite it. Only a couple of things that I remember, and one of the things I thought I remember was that he stood in front of the Sanhedrin, the high court in Jerusalem, and they tell him, right, or they don't accuse him, but they ask him a question, right, regarding his messianic claim or something to that effect, and he goes, "You said that, I didn't," something like that, right? Atem amartem, right? You said it, and I thought. And maybe someone in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong. Evidently I am. I trust Sneezer's knowledge of the New Testament far exceeds my own, who've read it once. That I thought that he was not found guilty of anything, nor was he found to be exactly innocent of everything. But that, so that the Sanhedrin did not condemn him. I thought it was the mob who condemned him to death, choosing the thief over him. And I always forget the name of the thief. Something with a bet? I don't remember. Furthermore, said Sneezer, confirmed in Roman archives. So if Roman archives and the New Testament say that the Sanhedrin did condemn Yeshu, right, Jesus, then I suppose that's the case. And I simply misremembered. I didn't remember it properly. Just propaganda, I suppose. He says, I counter. that of course the Sanhedrin try to erase their sin and ultimately complete failure, also explaining the only reason they reject the Bible. And I don't understand exactly what that means, Sneezer. If you're watching this at some point, do tell me, because I didn't quite understand the end of that paragraph. So he says, he continues and he says, sorry, but I believe firmly God keeps the holy books truthful, despite how language and meaning changes. Though records can be forged and usually are by the victor, truth remains visible to those with eyes to see. To the extent, he says, that even the early prophets told them they would slay the Messiah, and thus had to. And in parentheses here, he says, yes, I forgive, as does my only master, Jesus of Nazareth. He continues and says, wait, so I'll address this. Holy books remain truthful. Well, once again, if something is here written in text, written in scroll, written with ink, if it's a physical book, if it's something that is in the mind of someone before they write it down, it still has to do irrevocably, inexorably with this world, with this body, with this mind, right, of the human being. And by the time it comes down through the chain of revelation and divine emanation, and reaches that solid form rooted in the four elements, in the physical world, there's a backbone and element of truth to it, and yet language and meaning changes, just as he said. Records can be forged, right? Things are written by those who have won the war. Censorship and so on. And once again, I always mention this, the dots over certain letters and phrases in the written Torah, in the written scroll, is tikkun sofrim, right? It's something that was added by the scribes. And that already means that, yes, human beings added to the Torah at some point, which means that even if you say that for many thousands of years, or whatever the case may be, whenever the Torah goes back to, in this form or that form, at some point, even if it was divinely inspired and divinely written and handed down to Moses, he wrote it in the scroll and we have it as it, there is still intervention by human beings in the written Torah scroll. You can counter it and make arguments for this or that. That's basically what it's known as. The dots over certain phrases, known as a tikkun sofrim, right? And so an addition of the scribes. And so, as for holy books being truthful, yes, but the fact is that out of the, let's say, holy books of Judaism, you can derive a lot of untruthful ways of behaving, of acting, of interpreting the Torah. There are many, many people who would say that what I'm doing here and now, and I've never obviously presented myself as a rabbi, a scholar, or a learned or educated man of any kind or sort. However, many times I will reference the 5 books of Moses. Many times I will reference the prophets and the writings and so on. Those are holy books that many consider to be truthful, and yet they would say that I am deriving from it untruthful things and spitting in the well from whence I took the water, and spoiling it, and poisoning others who are listening. And you've seen here in the chat, every now and then someone will come and say that, to which I would agree. I would agree, yes. In their opinion, that's exactly what I'm doing. So I agree with them because that's how they're seeing it. Now, as for the early prophets telling them they would slay the Messiah and thus had to, the Hebrew tradition is, if it is a prophecy of the negative sort, it does not need to come to pass, because we can make tshuva, right? We can return, we can make amends, we can repair, we can redeem ourselves through our actions, keeping Torah, commandments, and covenant, and that negative prophecy does not have to come to pass. It will not manifest. However, if it's a positive one, it will come to pass. So the early prophets saying that they would slay the Messiah, again, that's arguable. Which Messiah? What Messiah? Cool. But, right, in the book of Lamentations, Jeremiah says exactly this, that the Messiah, right, the Messiah was taken. Speaking of Tzidkiyahu. So, it's Good that you forgive. Forgiveness, people they say, right? To err is human, to forgive is divine. Wait, hang on. One of my small mustache hairs is just poking right up into the entrance to my left nostril and driving me insane. No, not insane, but okay. Let's continue. Says Sneezer. Wait, first let's go to the chat before I continue with that comment. See if there's anything here. Oh, James Bong is here. Happy Hanukkah. Shalom, my friends. Good to see you all. Indeed, good to be seen. Good to see you. Robert says, oh, Sneezer left a comment saying Christians would follow someone else if they should more love, to which I disagreed. Yes, I'll read that after I finish with his comment, his fourth point that I think you were contending. So you disagreed, saying they wouldn't follow anyone else. Robert says, yeah, but how much does a dot change the Torah? It's not a question of how much it changes. It means that something was added to the scroll. The scroll that many people hold to be the true word of God. And even, right? And there are, as I say, different scrolls for different, Ashkenazim, Sfaradim, Teimanim, and so on. It's a different scroll. James Bong says, I was called a Roman in the I-24 chat for wanting Israel to win the war and have peace talks after. Yeah, and I think it'll have to come to that if such a war is winnable, and I believe it is, but what would Duff Man do? You were called a Roman for wanting Israel to win? How does that make sense? I'm curious. Oi? Okay, let's continue Sanizer's comment. Some, he says, some wish the Bible would disappear like most things in history. It never will, says Sneezer, for it is the only known surviving record from that time, bringing the truths that matter to light. Some may always deny, until too late not to. But there is yet one who will not. Okay, some will always deny, there's one who will not. Jesus lives, he says, and more importantly, loves even you enough to continue giving you life, though sadly you are free to deny him inside. As you know, I do deny the divinity of Jesus, and I don't follow him. And what you attribute to Jesus, I attribute to the Most High God, right? Giving me life even as I transgress against his word, giving me sustenance, right, and vitality even as I go against certain teachings. Or maybe. He says, no true Christian will ever accept any other Messiah unless they should surpass Jesus' example of unconditional love as obviously guided to by Jesus by whatever name or path. Right, so this is what Robert Harrison and he disagree on. As we all attempt in his honor. So he says that a true Christian, he says, will never accept any other Messiah, nor will any true Muslim who attempt likewise, submitting only to the globally chosen one who brings peace, he says. There is a reason less than 1%, mostly focused in your region, actually fight it. And the reason, he says, being the misguided as to what light and fire mean, while forgetting the smoke and mirrors. Hang on, I'll read that last part again. He says 1% in your region are fighting it. So we're actually fighting it, being the misguided as to what light and fire mean, while forgetting the smoke and mirrors. So we're misguided and forgetting the smoke and mirrors. But in this, what is the smoke and what are the mirrors, Mr. Sneezer? And he continues and finishes, anyone reading should probably reread that many times. I see many true interpretations. Surely the Holy Spirit guides my words. Okay. I mean, I don't know what to make of some of it. What that last part with smoke and mirrors, light and fire is unclear to me. Unclear to me. I'd love to know what he meant. Okay.
Okay?
I was viewed as violent, says James Bong. Hey, Nancy Roach is here. Hello, Nancy. Good to see you again.
כאן.
Happy Hanukkah. Can you cut a single unruly hair bothering a nostril? Yes, because it's not the hair of my head, it's the hair of my mustache. The Nazarite does not need to have a beard or a mustache. It's just the hair on the head that is not allowed to be shaved or cut or shorn.
יאללה, בוא תראה איתי.
Violence is unavoidable in war, even if we didn't start it. Incidentally, I do clip, I don't clip, I snip my mustache hairs to the, lip line here. They interfere with eating and with kissing. Okay.
מי זה?
So he says,
אני לא כאילו הראיתי, אבל...
so Robert says, on the Christian aspect, Sneezer knows or should know there is no one after Yeshua, Jesus. I couldn't believe he said that. So he said, so there's no one, right? Robert says there is nobody after him, and how did Sneezer say that? If someone else came along giving more love than Yeshua did, okay? He continues, Robert says, how much more love can you show than dying for them? This is directed at Sneezer in a loving fashion. Well, Sneezer, there's that dichotomy or duality of misunderstanding, understanding, right? Conditional love and unconditional love. Or hate and unconditional love. I'm not sure how he would phrase it. But I think that even though he said that, I don't know if he himself believes that such a being or person exists. Knowing how you and he speak of Jesus, right, being Christians and people who follow him, even if you two differ on that point, I think that you would find a kind of common ground and you would be able to agree. I mean, how much more love can you show than dying for them? It's a good question. Maybe he'll answer it. Let's hope he answers it. Is there more in the comments? Hang on. Serenity now, says BMXers with dreadlocks. And I was Serenity now, insanity later. Serenity now is a great episode. Dedication, says BMXers with dreadlocks, right? Referring to Chanuka. So every freeform dreadhead. Oh, I'm sorry, not celebrating Chanuka. Talking about dedication of growing natural hair, natural dreads. It is dedication. So every freeform dreadhead, he says, celebrates Chanuka. Okay. I thought he stopped. Oh. Okay. All right. I will say goodnight and goodbye from Jerusalem. Happy Hanukkah. God willing. God willing, I will see you on Wednesday, or maybe not Wednesday. It might be tomorrow, 9 p.m. It might be Wednesday, 9 p.m. Either way, I hope. May it be so, that we'll be able to continue this chat, continue the dialogue, the discussion. Thank you, each and every one of you, those watching now, those watching later, every sub, every view, every like. Your participation means a lot to me. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your kind attention. I don't take it for granted. I can sit here with a cup of tea and chat with you good people on a Monday night. So much trouble going on in the world. May it be a peaceful and bountiful continuation of this week, a lovely holiday season. Be blessed and be a blessing to those around you. Laila Tov, good night from Jerusalem. Chag Sameach.